Donald Trump could make every XRP holder rich through their own actions. We're going to talk about stablecoins. Are institutions and banks ready? Are they going to go to Ripple and ask them to use their technology? I'm going to cover it all in this video, and I think the results are going to shock you. They're literally telling us it's not like in closed doors and not hiding. We don't have to read between the lines. They are telling us that stablecoins are the future, and all we need to do is listen, position ourselves, and get ready for takeoff. Check it out. And we are going to put a lot of thought into the stablecoin regime. And as President Trump has directed, we are going to keep the US the dominant reserve currency in the world. And we will use stablecoins to do that. We are going to keep the United States dollar the most dominant currency in the world. And we're going to use stablecoins to do that. The reason this is happening, if you're not familiar, if you don't understand the backstory here, a piece of this is countries like China used to be one of the biggest buyers of US debt, which are treasury bills. What happened is that China has now become one of the biggest sellers of treasury bills. And the United States needs someone or something or a new industry to be the buyer for all of these different sold bonds. The bond market is a national security issue. If that were to fall or collapse or something bad happened to it, it could be catastrophic for everybody that lives in the United States and our partners globally. All right? Listen to this now. We're going to shift this into understanding what the CEO of BMelon, the CEO of Bank of America, and other bank leaders across the world, what are they thinking right now when it comes to stablecoins and crypto? Are they ready? And what are the next steps for those banks? I want to look at all that information. Let's get this. A bunch of other letters, and no one ever notices it. I think in the growth opportunity in digital assets, the parent letter in digital assets is stablecoins. I think stablecoins are what will onboard the whole world to digital assets. If you saw Brian Mohn, the CEO of Bank of America, he was at Davos recently in an interview. They asked him about crypto, and he said the minute we're allowed to be in crypto, we will be there. We will be there in payments. That's their number one focus. So he's ready to. Same with BNY Mellon. BNY Mellon, I saw the head of their ETF business recently. I asked him what they were doing on custody, and he said the minute we're allowed to do custody without getting in trouble with a bank regulator, we're already ready. We have it all programmed. We're ready to go. We're already ready. It's already programmed. Ready to go. So stablecoins is the right place to start. Some of you probably know this. I bet the panel knows this. But Tether, the largest stablecoin provider, reported $13 billion in profits in 2024. Some of that was gains on Bitcoin. Tether made $13 billion, actually about $6 to $7 billion on their Tether holdings. The rest of it was, of course, in Bitcoin. She did mention Brian Mohn, and I want to bring in a clip from Brian Mahan because she said Brian Mohn at Davos. I believe it's this clip right here. Brian Mahan is the CEO of Bank of America. He has a lot of pull in the industry. He is a leader in the banking industry. And he is going to tell you flat out what she just told you. Banks are ready to go. Give us the green light. Let us use the technology without being shut down or sued. And we will lead this country into the new light. I might have added that last part. There's still 4,000 banks. So it's not like considering the disaggregation industry is pretty much, let's ask you a separate question. And Becky's got one back in Washington. But on crypto, we just had Brian Armstrong sitting in the seat that you were in. And obviously there's a lot of excitement about crypto. The banking business, for the most part, has stayed away from crypto. Given President Trump's full-throated support for crypto, do you imagine Bank of America is going to be full-on in the crypto business if we have this conversation 12 months, 24 months from now? I'd separate out this sort of crypto versus stable assets and digital movement of money, because we already move the vast, vast majority of our money digitally. Our consumers do. Our companies do. And so the question is, what's the business practice that you have to move another type of currency? So there's still 4,000 banks. So it's not like all right, there's also this clip here too. Let me play it clear. There's going to be a stable coin, which is going to be a fully dollar-backed, type of thing, which is no different than a money market fund with check access, is no different than a bank account, really. And so if they make that legal, we'll go into that business. So you'll have a UAB, a Bank of America coin, and a US dollar deposit. And we'll be able to move them back and forth. Because now it hasn't been legal for us to do it, but it's just done like another foreign currency. The question of what it's useful for is going to be interesting. Bank of America coin. Interesting. Haven't we talked about that exact same thing on this channel? We have, all right. There's also Robin Vince, the CEO of BMelon. And he too will tell you that banks are ready. They are ready. You sounded optimistic about crypto when we talked. Are you more optimistic now based on who the Trump administration is? We may have a crypto czar now. We seem like crypto regulations will be looser. And does BNY want to play a role in the community? Well, we've said this for the past couple of years and we've been consistent. And we haven't changed our point of view on this, which is digital assets represent a new, interesting, innovative technology, which we think could be important to the financial system over the course of the next 10, 20 years. Exactly the twists and turns along the way we'll have to see. but we've been investing. We've got the ability to custody crypto assets, digital assets, but also we're looking into the interesting smart contracts, ledger capabilities that the underlying technologies represent. And so we think there's an interesting future here, but AI as well. Remember, it's not just about digital assets. It's about how Tozol. I did want to show you. You know you've seen this clip too, right? 97% of institutions are ready. BNY Mellon is the world's largest custodial bank. They're the bank that your banks bank with. And they did a study of institutional asset managers to get their opinions on what they think about this space. And that report found that 97% of asset managers believe that tokenization will revolutionize the asset management industry. All right, 97% of asset managers agree that tokenization will revolutionize asset management. All right, now how much money are we talking about here in the United States right now? The current money supply is 2.56 trillion. And of course, all of these different factors play a role in it. But I wanted to better understand, what types of money. Let's just talk about types of money really quickly before I get into why banks are going to use Ripple for their stablecoins, because I'm going to show you some information and facts that lead me to believe that that's what's going to happen. Obviously, not all of them will do this, but there's a lot of things that go into this. But let's talk about money first. There's vault cash. This includes notes and coins stored in bank vaults. It is part of the bank's reserve. And if used for daily transactions, when withdrawals, there's also reserve balances at central banks, where banks also hold reserves in the form of electronic balances at central banks, and as such as the Federal Reserve of the United States. There's demand deposits. These are checking accounts that allow customers to withdraw funds on demand. They are a part of the M1 money supply, savings deposits. While not as liquid as demand deposits, savings accounts are still considered as part of the broader money supply M2. And then, of course, you have time deposits and money market funds and also accounts. So all of this value, most of this value will eventually wind up in a true digital form on a ledger, either through the bank's own stablecoin, or if the bank will decide to hold, let's say the United States government creates their own stablecoin, right? Their own digital dollar. That's not considered a CBDC. I mean, can you do that? Well, so that's actually very interesting that I just brought that up because, Republicans and Trump have been very clear. No CBDCs. So if the US is not going to put out their own kind of digital dollar, doesn't that mean that they're going to rely on country companies like Ripple, right, to do that? I know Trump's own True Social is getting into the stablecoin game. If the president's own company is getting into the stablecoin game, I think we need to take it seriously. It's happening, right? The Genius Act? Listen to this. What are the steps that banks would need to create their own stablecoin? I wanted to really understand this. Here we go. Regulatory compliance and licensing. Banks must first ensure compliance with financial regulators. This includes securing approvals from regulators, e.g. OCC or the FDIC, to issue stablecoins, as stablecoins tied to fiat currencies may be classified as deposits. Requiring banking licenses. Most of these banks will have that licensing already, but they might need some type of special digital asset license for the stablecoin. Implementing KYC and AML protocols directly into the stablecoin's architecture. This is what, Ripple, their whole thing is KYC and AML, right? Because this is the bare minimum of the checks that banks do before moving value around the planet. If a bank were to send money to let's say a sanctioned bank or something like that, that bank would be fined millions of dollars and possibly imprisonment for the person that sent it. Collaborating with legal experts to align with guidance from bodies like the Financial Stability Oversight Council and the National Credit Union Administration. So you're going to have a team of people working with other government agencies, as well as getting all of the legal experts and guidance that you need to actually move this thing forward. Of course, there is the design and the stablecoin model. Choose the collateral type. Most banks opt out of fiat-backed stablecoins (EGIST) due to the regulatory familiarity with liquidity advantages. Determine the blockchain platform. Select a platform supporting smart contracts such as Ethereum or a permission ledger. Banks like those with the USDF consortium use blockchain to automate minting burning based on deposit reserves. Now see, they want to determine this because if banks were to create their own stablecoin, their own blockchain, right? If that blockchain wasn't interoperable or if that blockchain, didn't have liquidity or value, there's all of these things that banks don't want to create their own blockchains. Banks mostly don't want to create their blockchains. Yes, you do have JP Morgan, and you have Citibank working on a few different things. But for the most part, for the majority of banks, they either don't have the money, the knowledge, the whole team, right? Because it's going to take money to build out a development team. And you're going to need that team constantly there. And banks aren't going to want to have all of those additional costs, if you understand what I'm saying here. So they also have to define liquidity requirements. Partner with financial analysts to ensure sufficient reserves and mechanisms. Develop technical infrastructure, smart contract development code itself, executing contracts to manage issuance redemptions and collateralization ratios. For example, USDF stablecoins are new smart contracts tied to customer bank deposits. Integrate banking systems. Link the stablecoin to existing infrastructure, e.g. core banking software for seamless minting and redemption. Build custodial solutions. Secure fiat reserves via trusted custodial or internal treasury systems like wallets, for instance. Testing and audits, right? Testing takes time. Audits take time. And banks are going to want to get this going pretty quickly, right? Launch and market integration. Deploy on mainnet. Launch the stablecoin on the chosen blockchain after testing. Form partnerships. Join consortiums like USDF Consortium. Market adoption. Target use cases such as market cross-bead payments. Remember a bank? The reason a bank would create their own stablecoins? Well, there's a lot. But one of them is to create additional income for the bank. You look at Tether making 6 to 7 billion additional a year from their stablecoins. Banks are like, hey, that would be good to have. That would give the bank a lot more value money to do other things. Right. Build out new departments. Upgrade services for clients. You name it. Very important ongoing management. Monitor liquidity. Adjust reserve holdings for dynamic based on demand. Update compliance protocols. Adapt to evolving regulations, such as potential federal oversight of payment focused on stable coins. We know the Genius Act is making its way through Congress. That will give us the green light that we are looking for, and banks will need. And I also wanted to better understand why banks would choose Ripple instead of making their own, because that's what information I wanted to better understand. And so, here you go. Advantages of partnering with Ripple instead of creating your own stablecoin. Established infrastructure and expertise. Remember, Ripple is the not most notable brand of blockchain infrastructure company on the planet. They have the most partnerships, the most central bank partnerships. They've been around the longest. It is. And at the top is very lonely, as they say. But Ripple is on the top. Ripple has well-developed blockchain infrastructure and extensive experience in digital asset solutions, digital payment solutions. This expertise can help banks navigate the complexities of blockchain technology and stablecoin issuance more effectively. Regulatory compliance. Ripple prioritizes compliance with global regulatory standards, which is crucial for financial institutions. By partnering with Ripple banks can ensure that their stablecoin operations align with stringent regulatory requirements, reducing the risk of non-compliance. Right? Compliance, compliance, compliance. That is the most important thing for all of these banks. That is why Ripple has all of this stuff already done. They have a whole department that works on compliance. Everything that they do when it comes to payments that it touches has all of this compliance built in. Cost efficiency and scalability. Developing and maintaining a stablecoin ecosystem can be costly and resource intensive. Partnering with Ripple allows banks to leverage existing infrastructure, reducing development cost and enhancing scalability. Right? It's all about money, right? Banks don't want to cough up millions of dollars to go through all this. They can go to Ripple and say, hey, either I want to use RLUSD. I don't want the headache of my own. Or hey, I want my own stablecoin that I can use internally in my bank to move value. Remember when you have a bank, Bank of America, let's say the West Coast, and you're moving money to Bank of America on the East Coast. Sometimes that money can't move seamlessly instantaneously, even if it's at the same bank. But if it's a stablecoin, you can move money in and out of an account all day long, very cheaply, very quickly, and instantaneously. Integration with existing systems. Ripple solutions are designed to integrate seamlessly with traditional finance systems. Here it is. Remember, if a bank creates their own stablecoin, they have to go out and connect it to the rest of the world's infrastructure. Time expensive. And what if your product starts to have issues or doesn't work because you haven't tested it for years? Remember, some of this technology requires banks to test it for quite a long time. 3, 6, 12 months or longer, making it easier for banks to incorporate stablecoins into their existing operations without significant overhauls. That is a big one, right? You might have to shut down the whole back end of your bank for some time while you go through all of this, right? One system might not be talking to another. It could cause havoc. Market trust and adoption. Ripple has established relationship with financial institutions and regulators, which can facilitate broader adoption of stablecoins. This existing network can help banks reach a wider audience and build trust among its users. Focus on core business. By outsourcing stablecoin development to Ripple banks, can focus on their own core business's activities, while still benefiting from the advantages of stablecoin technologies. Pretty much you can go be a bank. Go do what you do best. Help your customers. Create loans. Make money. We will come in, hook everything up. Give you the keys to the kingdom. All for the low, low price of I don't even know what it is. I wish I knew. That's why, man, if there's anybody that watches my channel that has any connections to like Brad or like Chris or David Schwartz or anybody from the Ripple team, Marcus and Fanger, anybody like that, please let me know, man. I can't get a hold of these people. I'm trying my best, man. I have so many questions that they can only answer. Challenges of creating own stablecoin, technical complexity. Developing a stablecoin requires significant technological experience and infrastructure, which can be challenging for banks to establish independently. Regulatory hurdles. Ensuring compliance with the evolving regulatory standards can be daunting without experience in the field and market competition. Entering a crowded market with established players like Ripple can make it more difficult for banks to gain greater traction for stable coins. What have I been telling you? I've been telling you this. Banks all around the world, especially those Ripple partners, a lot of them are going to decide that, hey, I like what our partnership so far. You are professional. You are always on time. You're always doing whatever I need to make this partnership work. I want to create my own stablecoin using your technology on the XRP ledger. Okay, now if you get 10, 20, 50 banks, I don't know, what is it going to be in 5, 10 years? 100 banks. If you get all of these banks to start creating their own stable coins and they start minting value. They mint the value on the XRP ledger, right? If you took 50 banks and each bank minted $1 billion in their stablecoin or $2 billion, right? You are starting to have hundreds of billions of dollars, trillions of dollars eventually coming on the ledger. And remember, with the multiplier effect, we might not need 2, 3, 400 trillion to get to a $510,000 XRP. If the multiplier effect is 50 or 80 or 100, we start bringing on 500 billion or trillion dollars. We are in 3 digits, 4 digits, yeah. Stable coins of the future. That's why I'm so excited. This is just one piece of why I'm so excited. Hope this helped you. Have a good day.